Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts.
You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. Fuck, fuck, fuck. I'm Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm the one who's Outlander obsessed. if you need to differentiate. You know, when you first start listening to a new podcast, it's hard to tell one from the other.
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah. I'll give them a little fun fact. And if I'm the one who's Outlander obsessed, then I would have to say you're the one who reads Black Dagger Brotherhood.
Yeah. Love it.
There was some at the library, but none of them were like the first in any series. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I gotta just find
That's
the first
the
one
thing.
and start there.
Some people might not have liked the last book. I did, but changes the game. Just like totally rewrote what's happening. Yeah, it ended. The book ends with a 30 or 33-year time jump into the future, and now all of the main characters from the book, like, they don't age really because they're vampires, so they can live to like 700. So they haven't, like, they've aged the 30 years, but not really like anything crazy. They're still all like hundreds of years old, so it's very little in their lives, but their kids and stuff that they had just had are now in their 30s, so now it's the second generation coming of, like, now all of them are gonna start settling down, and I feel like the parents all storylines are kind of over. You know, everybody basically had 2 books about them.
I don't like if they just drop the parents storyline. They don't do. I was gonna say that in Outlander, you do the kind of the time jumps to where their daughter is basically an adult, and you don't go through the time when Claire and Jamie aren't together. But yeah, if they were to just drop Claire and Jamie, like, fuck that. Like, I read this other historical novel series that starts with like Into the Wilderness. I don't know, Sarah Donati, I think is how you say it, her name. And like they did the main characters, and you kind of had them for 2 books, and like, yeah, they have their kids or whatever, but then all of a sudden now it's just more focused on their adult daughter. And like for the first few chapters of one book, I was like, well, what the hell's going on with our main couple? Like, are they alive?
Oh, they're still in it. Like, they're still gonna be in it because they all still like live kind of in the same community in New York. So yeah, like, they're still gonna be in it. It just isn't gonna be the same. And then they were like talking, and I was like, oh, now they're like, their kids are just venting about like, so and so's too overprotective, and you're like, we've spent 20 years being like, when so and so's kid grows up, they're gonna be the one standing on the porch with the shotgun, like, threatening all the boys and stuff, and that's exactly what's happening. And so that part's kind of cute. You get to see that play out, but it's like, oh, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so different. And she has not released or announced any of the next books to come out or release dates or anything. And normally we know for at least the next one, normally every 6 months. And there's nothing like announced right now for the rest of the year in any of her series. Okay. So it's like, oh shit, like, I don't know. Like,
which is a normal timeline for most authors. Is pretty a year-ish too, maybe. Incidentally, that's where that historical fiction book was set. It was upstate New York in a place called Paradise. So it's funny now you're just in like New York City.
No, Caldwell, New York. It's just the
Oh,
state of New York.
random.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Everything else is
outside.
upstate New York. There's nothing in southern New York but New York City. And then it's all just like Jersey and fucking
Yeah.
DC and
No, it's
whatever
not.
else the fuck. Yeah, Rhode Island.
It's definitely not like New York City that they're hanging out in. No.
Aw.
Uh
Thought they were all glitzy,
no.
glamoury vamps.
No. No. It's still like a well-sized city. Like there's a downtown, there's like skyscrapers and stuff like that that are described with like condos and kind of
Sure.
thing, but yeah, not New York City.
I suppose. Well, you gotta move around when you're a vampire. Keep up that cover.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, this has been book talk. And not book talk like the TikTok where all your algorithm gives you books, but like us
Okay.
talking about books. Apparently,
Yeah.
there's a book talk.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I get
I would
some
enjoy
stuff
that.
about books, but I don't go on TikTok a lot enough for it to really know me.
I don't go on there at all. I don't have one, but
Sometimes other people talk about it and they'll be like, I saw this TikTok, or I read this article, by which I mean I saw this TikTok, and I'm like, oh my god, you guys are getting all the like newsy, informative.
uh, yeah, no thanks.
I don't know. Yeah, I remember doing it on vacation because I had a lot of time to waste, but that was before I had a podcast. Now I never
Yeah,
have time to waste.
yeah. Now I'm just reading a bunch of like true crime thrillers, kind of different
Yeah.
suspense, murder mystery type
Yay.
things from Amazon. They have Prime Unlimited, I think it's called. You can basically borrow these books from Prime
Oh.
for free, and then you just after you're done, you just return it. But they only let you check out like 8 at a time. So I have them on my
Okay, so it's
Kindle,
like
and I can read them
a
without
little
Wi-Fi and stuff. And
library.
then when I'm done, I just send it back to them. Next time I'm connected to Wi-Fi, you just kind of return the book. But it's nice. A few different authors in there.
Yeah. Okay, that's my other
Yeah.
favorite genres for sure, like the thriller, the mystery, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading a
Yeah.
literal my first Agatha Christie book. I'm just
Oh, I haven't read any of those. No.
somebody get killed at a Halloween party. She wasn't bobbing for apples anymore. Um,
Oh no.
and then I just picked up a couple from this one author at the library because they had a few of hers, and I think they call it Scandinavian noir. It's basically true crime thriller.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be like a murder and then everybody, yeah, trying to figure it out and is it connected to this other murder and blah 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 and it's dark and it's,
Nice.
I don't know why they
Sounds
call
fun.
it yeah, noir other than that, but yeah, it's really good. Dang.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I got for that, and I'll have to give you the movie minute after we watched whatever scary movie we watched tonight. The Priest, I think. Russell Crowe, he said. Haven't seen it? No.
No.
I'll let
I've
you
not seen
know.
very many Russell Crowe movies, so
Well, no, it's a horror though. I think it's like a
yeah.
possession. I'm just guessing. I can't remember if I saw the
I
trailer,
might
but
have seen. Okay.
yeah,
I'm like, I have no idea.
I don't know. And then we get to download the Dungeons and Dragon ones out for streaming now too, so we're gonna rewatch that. Which was really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
My dad and I are going to go see Guardians of the Galaxy on
Oh,
Monday.
that's the other one. That's oh my god. How did we not talk about that? We're freaking what do we call Marvel fans? There's no we're Marvel fans. I don't know. You watch all the
Yeah, we're
Guardian ones
excited.
anyway. Pat and I watch all of them.
Yeah. I didn't watch the Christmas special.
Oh, that's too
But
bad. It was good.
I have seen like the Guardians movies. I do watch most of the Marvel movies. I'd say the
Yeah.
ones I haven't seen are uh the Captain America ones I don't really care for.
Okay.
Um
Yeah, they're all right.
I think
Depends. There's some good ones and
yeah.
nah.
Other than that, I'm pretty sure I've seen all of well,
Okay.
Correction, because I didn't see the Black Widow movie, and I didn't see um
Oh, Black Widow is so good.
yeah, I didn't watch that one. And there's one other one that I haven't seen through. Um yeah,
I mostly
but I've
like
seen most
David
of them.
Harbour and that, and he's her like
Yeah.
Russian fake father or whatever from when she was a kid, and then her fake sister, who's Florence Pugh, is always like making fun of her, like,
I
"Oh, you gonna
love
do the
her.
pose?" It's so cute. Oh, you'd probably like it. Um,
Probably,
but
yeah.
we did watch. Actually, that reminded me. We watched the newest Ant Man and the Wasp,
Uh,
Quantumania, and then
oh yeah, I haven't seen that one yet either.
I was telling my sister who doesn't watch. Okay, she doesn't watch all the Marvel movies. What she said was she she'll give her money to the ones that with Taika Waititi or something like that.
Yes.
So like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, that's because you should just watch it for Corey Stoll's character who comes back. Spoiler. I mean, we haven't seen him since he's been in the quantum verse since like the first Ant-Man or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, so we get to see him again, and he looks uh like, we joke that he looks a lot like Russell's boyfriend Les. So, and he gets this
Oh.
like, he's had a makeover in the quantum verse. I mean, we'll just say that he's this
Oh.
freakazoid looking thing.
Ugh.
like like a Humpty Dumpty with these little legs. It's really weird, but it's
Oh my
so
god.
funny.
It probably is. The first Ant-Man's very funny. Anything with Paul Rudd in it just has to be
Oh my
funny.
god.
Because he's just. I will watch any Paul Rudd movie in existence.
Oh,
I
Paul
love
Rudd.
him so
Oh, of
much.
course he's good. Oh, I can't say anymore because it'll be too spoilery, but yeah, there's scenes with lots of Paul Rudd. There's scenes that made me think about when we were talking about, you hadn't seen World War Z, but you had seen the trailer or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
where the zombies are
All
piling
the
up. Well, because
zombies.
ants do that, right? So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Anything can happen in the
Fun.
quantum verse.
Yeah.
This has been Movie Minute.
Every episode is a movie minute.
Hey, I saved you guys from, well, not unfunny, completely stupid banter, but there was a little bit more talking about our cats and dogs in the last episode that I was like, I don't know if this is going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Anyway, what have you got for us today? A little shorty one?
Uh, yeah, it's pretty short. I think in the last episode, I had given a clue about what I might talk about. So, for anybody
Oh.
that tried to guess, I think I had said if you guys are repeat listeners and you know what kind of true crime I normally do, you will not be surprised on who I picked. Uh,
Did you? I've not done editing yet,
yeah.
so I don't remember when you said that.
Okay. Probably right at the end of the episode.
Oh,
So
okay,
we'll
that's why.
see if you didn't come up with something and you know some true crime cases from the Philippines. Maybe try and think of one before I start
Right.
and see if you're right.
Maybe our
Uh,
Filipino listeners do. I mean, I didn't know anything. I couldn't think of one murderer.
yeah. Yeah. I,
But I found
uh,
one.
yeah, right? Uh, so mine is a very, very old case. It
Ooh,
begins or takes
very,
place over
very
the
old.
period. Very, very old.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if it's the oldest I've ever done, but it's very old. It takes place over a period of 10 years between 1816 and 1826.
Oh, turn of the century. Several centuries.
200 years ago. Uh,
Wow,
when,
that is pretty old. We don't normally do
yeah. No,
pre 1900s very often.
not typically, yeah. So in this 10-year span, there were 57 people that were murdered in
Holy cow.
Magalang. I did look up pronunciations, so sorry if it's so wrong. But so these people were murdered in the town of Magalang
Okay.
in Pampanga, which is like the Pampanga province.
I
And
love their names, the
yeah,
place names.
for many years after, even the names of the victims were unknown, while their killer remained on the loose.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't
And
like
unfortunately,
that.
there isn't a lot of details in the case as far as like anything really.
That
We
kind
just
of
know it
tracks
happened.
for
Yeah.
then. I mean,
Yeah, it's very old.
I can't imagine there
Uh,
was like tons of newspapers unless it was in the bigger cities back then.
no, but they did have people that were documenting stuff, but they didn't care about this, so they weren't documenting it. But we'll get into that.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So, scattered in different parts of the town of Magalang, bodies were being discovered during a time when the Spanish colonial government was actually in control. And yeah, so it was being run
Oh,
by the Spanish government, not by Filipinos like in their community. And
dang. They just
because
been
of these,
occupied a few different times then.
yeah,
Poor
uh,
Philippines.
because of this, the Filipino and both the Filipino and the Spanish residents that were living there were concerned for what was going on, and they were trying to hunt for the person responsible. Um, Obviously, with the 10-year time span, the cases sat unsolved for many years during those 10
Oh.
years.
So it's not clear how long between some of them it was.
No, like, we don't know victims' names, we don't know ages, we don't know how they were, like, it wasn't documented how they were murdered, just that they were.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
That
so
makes it
that
tough.
brings us. Yeah.
On the
I was like,
cops
I could
and
try
you.
listening.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, like, there was different Filipino podcasts I could have listened to. I didn't know how many of them were going to be in English or anything.
Oh,
So I didn't go
yeah.
that route, trying
Hmm.
to find, like, more information, but
Yeah, that coupled with the time frame would
yeah.
make it hard. I had some difficulty deciphering some timelines and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We do our best.
Uh, yeah. So that basically there's no surprise. Brings us to the murderer because we do theoretically know who it is. Some people don't agree with this, but
Oh,
uh
okay. There's a
yeah,
theory.
like some people, yeah, this is the most prominent theory as to what happened, and that is a gentleman named Juan Saravino Malari. Uh and Malari was born in Macabebe or Macabebe.
Ooh.
Peop
I love both
Online it
versions.
yeah, online it was like basically pronounce it like you're trying to say make a baby. I was like, that is helpful. But it
It's
was like,
also yeah,
like from Schitt's Creek when she's like, it's a bebe and
a
it's
baby.
BB. And it's like Macabebe.
I also love it when people
uh
tell her she has a completely indecipherable or unplaceable
accent.
accent or something. Oh,
Macabebe.
but yeah, it's very helpful. It's kind of helpful, like how if if you want to spell Philippines, you just think Philip Pines, and I was like, that's a
I had to
great.
do that so many times. And it was
Yeah,
bad because I
yeah.
kept forgetting how to spell Philip. Like
Oh
while I
no.
was trying to do it, I was like, how do you spell? I kept spelling
Uh,
Philip wrong. So it's like, I knew the trick now and I knew how to do it, but I had forgotten how to spell Philip.
right, because what if it's Philip who spells it with one L? Then you're fucked.
Yeah. Yeah. That's literally
Ugh,
what kept happening to me.
that's
Um,
funny.
yeah. So he was born in Macabebe. One source said it was not there, but maybe in a place called San Nicolas.
Ooh, Saint Nicholas.
Um,
Wait, that is what that would mean in Spanish, actually. San Nicholas.
yeah.
That's funny. Christmas land.
Um, yeah, so Malari, he studied theology at the University of Santo Tomas and became ordained in 1809. And
Wow,
he,
okay. That doesn't usually happen in
yeah,
our stories.
right. He went from town to town, first as an assistant priest, before deciding to apply to become a parish pastor. So, kind of in charge. Uh,
Okay.
During this time in the early 1800s, the position of a parish pastor had like some power associated with it. And at this time, because they were being controlled by the Spanish government, these positions were typically held by Spanish colonizers and not by Filipino residents themselves.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Shitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after applying and being rejected 4 different times in different towns to become the parish pastor, he eventually succeeded and took over one of the parishes and was welcomed actually as the first Filipino to reside over the Magalang parish in that town. So
Oh,
that's where
okay.
he settled. Yeah.
That's cool.
He was described as gifted, like very nice. People really liked him. And he was actually the second Filipino to master the art of calligraphy, which is a very interesting
Oh,
detail. Yeah.
okay. I
Um,
wonder if it was just new at the time.
I think it was very new, and so there's actually no pictures of Malari at all. They've been kind of
Hmm.
scrubbed off the face of the earth. And the
Okay.
only picture that comes up when you Google him is like kind of newspapery type little cartoony sketches, along with
Oh.
one of the calligraphy things he did because he used to decorate the parish's annual reports with like flowering vines and angels on clouds and stuff. So when you Google his name, one of the only things that comes up is one of these annual reports with like the beautiful calligraphy around it. So that's the only picture I have from my segment. Is his calligraphy.
Ah, I did see that on the drive and was a
Yeah.
little bit confused.
Yeah, it's just called calligraphy. Uh
Oh, I'm gonna look at it.
so it's really well done for the fact that it was like free-handed.
Sounds very
Uh
pretty.
yeah, he was adored by the citizens that he resided over, and they loved that he was Filipino and not one of the Spanish friars because they were actually pretty afraid of like the Spanish friars and everything that were looking over them. Like, so they were happy to have somebody that was like Filipino finally.
Finally. No, that's
Yeah.
very pretty. I can't doodle
Yeah,
that,
it's
and I like
nice.
to doodle vines and stuff
Right?
and
Yeah.
flowers. I like to do things that have just curvy shapes that are like teardrop shapes.
Yeah.
That's I can do those kind of things.
Right?
I think I took calligraphy
Uh
as like an elective in middle school. I want to say,
oh, I would have loved
yeah.
that. Never.
I think I'm trying to get Rain into it, but she was kind of like, "What?" We have to work on our handwriting, so I think it might be a fun way to get
Yeah.
it to be less chicken scratch.
Yeah.
No offense.
Um so that brings us to, like I said, there isn't a lot of information about this case. So at this time, like he's residing over the parish still. There weren't really any clues or any suspects as to who was killing these dozens of citizens. And it was weighing
Shit.
pretty heavily on this pretty close knit community. Um, so in 1826, Father Malari ended up contracting an unknown illness, and this led him to need kind of attendants to look after him at his house.
Oh.
So he was basically like, I don't know if he was bedridden, but he was house ridden. He couldn't really leave his house. So the attendants that said they may or may not have been involved with the church or other priests, like, came in and were looking after him.
Okay,
And
that's good.
yeah, it was while they were looking after Father Malari that these attendants accidentally discovered the reported bloody personal belongings of many of the murder victims at his residence. Like, he had all
Ah!
these, it didn't say what these personal belongings were. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. That's like finding Bluebeard's closet full of his old wife's skulls or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh no, 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 no. Not
So,
good, sir. Father, whatever the fuck.
as you can imagine, the discovery of these bloody belongings was a shock to the town. And how could such a talented artist and man of God commit such horrible crimes?
Oh, I
Um,
mean, I could
yeah.
explain a few things to them about how often that is a a thing.
Yeah, right?
Ugh,
So,
sadly.
after the discovery and word got out, people began speaking about Father Malari's uh, reported mental instability. He was actually taken to Manila to be imprisoned with all the other criminals, and he ended up not receiving any sort of treatment for any possible mental illness he may have had,
Oh,
which is
yikes.
also a thing about this case. People don't like that, even though it was like
No,
so long ago.
not in love with
Uh,
it.
yeah. According to accounts, Father Malari stated that his motivation was actually kind of strange. So he believed that in murdering these people, it was somehow curing his ailing mother. Um, he believed that his
No.
mother had been bewitched by a mancuculum,
Oh.
cuculum, which is like a witch, basically, like a witch doctor, kind of like put an evil curse on his mother.
Oh. Okay, so not like a
Mhm.
spirit, really? More like a real
No,
person.
like
We
a
need to do
yeah,
Filipino folklore. Adding it to the
yeah.
list.
So in his mind, killing these parishioners, he was somehow keeping his mom alive. Didn't really
Ugh.
say like why. I thought maybe they were like sacrifices. Be like, if I kill this person, they kind of take her place. It wasn't really explained.
Yeah, I've heard a
Um,
similar story where they basically believed that
yeah.
yes, if they did that, then their son would be safe when they went to war. It was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Scary.
Sure.
Um, Along with everything else, there are no records of what his mom actually suffered from. Uh, it's also kind of brought into question is how reliable is this supposedly bloody items found in his house at a time when virtually no forensics existed, and it'd be pretty hard for them to
Okay.
identify 57 victims and like link that to somebody even today. Like, it'd be hard for
Yeah.
you to link somebody to 57 like victims even by today's standards, let alone in like 1826.
Right, right,
uh
right. They hardly
yeah.
could have hope of convicting you of that many, of having enough evidence.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, like unless you got like 57 bloody IDs or like something and be
Yeah.
like, well, it's hard to identify sometimes clothing and stuff like that. So, uh and there's also tell that any confessions he did may have been like beaten or even tortured out of him, which is kind of like practice at the time. It did
Oh,
happen quite
good.
regularly. Yeah. Uh so
Yeah, there's definitely
father
some
like
shady things that go on in
yeah.
such a, I'm assuming, a beautiful country with like some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
damn.
coupled with the fact that he may have been suffering from a type like a case of some mental illness and things like that.
I
Um
mean, clearly there was
yeah.
something.
So Father Malari's his trial ended up causing a frenzy uh through the residents of the town. And even the Spaniards who lived in the town, they ended up using his trial and all these murders as an example to further reinforce their bias they held that Filipino people believe too much in like spiritual tales and
Oh God.
like superstitions and stuff like that.
For their
Yeah.
taste.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, it's just different like culture. But
different strokes for different folks. Exactly. And then why do we always have to like bring people around to our point of view or whatever?
yeah. Yeah.
People
Ugh,
do it today. It's
colonizers.
just what?
I
Colonizers?
said, ugh, colonizers. Ironically, because we're colonizers, but ugh,
I mean,
colonizers.
totally. But then also people do it now today when they like try and force their views on you. And you're like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
we can have differences of opinion. Doesn't mean we're bad people. Like we can have
Yeah.
talks. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, someone's. Quick aside, Cheryl Crow said it really well on an episode of the Murdoch Murders podcast that I listened to that she was on because she was really into it.
Oh,
Did I
yeah?
tell you that?
No.
I thought I was going to mention it in the Patreon one, but then there was so much to talk about with that freaking case. She said, we align ourselves now more with what we are against than what we are for. And I was like, ooh, that's really
Oh.
interesting because
Yeah.
it does seem like people are more loud about like you're being bad and rather than here's how we
Yeah.
can be good or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure
It's
there's a
very
Bible
easy to
quote.
point out what you don't like
Yeah, people in
and
glass
things that
houses
are
shouldn't throw
bad.
stones and all that jazz. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So this case brings up a lot for like uh belief that there's like there was an injustice done for like how the trial took place and everything after.
Mm-hmm.
There's a psychiatrist that ended up becoming a historian named Dr. Luciano Santiago. And
Damn.
yeah, he ended up writing Father Malari's biography in 2002. And he believes that Malari was probably suffering from severe psychosis and should have been admitted to a mental institution, uh,
Okay.
which there were ones being run at the time by different religious charities, and they were actually uh, these mental institutions were actually pioneered by the Spaniards and were actually said to provide pretty humane treatment for the mentally ill, like at that time.
Okay.
Because at first I was like, really, would that have been much better than getting sent to prison? But
Sure.
it sounds like at least it would have been partially because one source I read said that the world's first mental hospital was reportedly founded in Spain, and they were viewed as pioneers of mental health, which
Oh,
was kind of interesting. I didn't know that. So I was like,
no, me
yeah, I
neither.
guess if they, and like they had set up these mental institutions in the Philippines when they were there, like after they had done them
Right.
back in Spain. So I was like, yeah, it may have been like obviously there's still probably torture and like mistreatment and stuff like we know happened, but they might have been a
Yeah.
bit better
They
than
at least
prison.
tried.
Yeah.
That's
Um
interesting. Also, that book sounds really good. He was a historian and
yeah.
then a psychiatrist or something. Like
He was
that's
a psychiatrist turned historian and he wrote Father Malari's biography in
yeah, I want
2002.
to read that.
Yeah. I was
Sounds
like, I want to
cool.
know his biography. I didn't have time to like look it up, but how much more information did you get from it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Give me the cliff notes.
Yeah. One of the sources I read at this time was kind of talking about the fact that like Filipinos today are known for being some of the happiest on earth, like happiest
Aw.
communities of people on earth.
I can see that for
Um,
sure.
Yeah, they have really strong family and religious values, which is nice. but at the same
Yeah.
time, they do really struggle, according to this source, it said, with like a stigma and the treatment for mental health. Like it is very
Mm,
like
okay.
stigmatized in like
Sure.
even today.
Yeah, like
There's
it is here
situ
too. Yeah. So I could,
yeah.
yeah, that
Here
makes
it seems
sense.
to be quite a bit worse. Like the source went on to talk about their situations where if a family has one or more members in their family that may be mentally ill, that they're sometimes chained up or even kept in makeshift cages in the households because the most impoverished families don't have proper access to the free mental health assistance that's like now, as of 2019, like provided free of charge. Like this is still happening today. People are like
Oh.
kept in cages or chained up.
I talked about a
Yeah.
woman that was chained up. When was that? Oh my God, I don't remember. It was in Asia though. Yeah, she
Yeah.
was kept chained outside. I think that might have been
Yeah.
China though. That is so fucked
And
up.
so but yeah, like went in there was like a lot more details about this. But
Wow.
yeah, like
That's too
even
bad.
today, like they'd rather do that than like, especially if they can't get access to this free mental health assistance that they're supposed to be able to access. Like obviously
Yeah.
it's not a perfect system. There's something going wrong there, and then it even said that the government doesn't really do anything to try and get them into better circumstances or help the people that they know are like chained up or in these cages in households. uh
Wow.
yeah. um so going back to Father Malari back in the 1800s, uh, in 1840, after being in jail for 14 years, Father Malari was hanged for his crimes. Uh, and he does have kind of some notoriety. He's recognized as the first and maybe only documented serial killer in the Philippines, which
Okay.
is what stuck out when I was looking there. Like, priest turned serial killer is first serial killer in the Philippines, and I was like, what? I was
That
like,
was
I
the
need to
hook.
know
That
more.
was the hook.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Um.
Mine had a pretty good hook too, where I was like, all right, this
Yeah.
story sounds interesting.
That's why I was
Was
like, if anybody knows me, they won't be surprised I picked this because it's a serial killer and it's a priest serial killer and he's the first one and possibly the only. So it's like, of course I
yeah,
had to talk about
your
it.
story would probably make the best true crime or horror movie. It's got those kind of elements of like,
Yeah.
ooh, so the seedy underbelly.
Yeah. Um, it did talk about the fact that there's other people that have technically killed like three or more, like that's a criteria, but these other killers are
Yeah,
typically considered to be mass murderers, as like the killings occurred rapidly. So it was either like crazy, like a mass shooting or like a mass like stabbing kind of thing where all of them happened
right.
within a few hours or the same
Oh,
day, or even occurred in the same instance where they just
like
killed
a
a whole
spree
bunch of
killer.
people. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Where he obviously over like 10 years killed this number of people. So it is kind of like, yeah, a different
It's
type
different.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine would fall into like a third category, let's say.
Ooh,
You'll see.
interesting.
Yeah.
I'm hooked. Uh
Nice.
so um oh, it did say too that because they say he's maybe like he is recognized possibly as the first, and maybe only, they say maybe only
Right.
because the fact that there's like even today there's so much like corruption and even just incompetence that in the like police handling of cases that may lead to cases not properly being linked together. If yeah, like
Oh.
they may not recognize a serial killer if they aren't properly linking cases.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate. But
Yeah.
I could see that cuz I don't know, the police and the politicians seem to be pretty occupied in my story.
Yeah. Yeah, so there may be others we just don't know about them
Interesting.
because of this. Father Malari was also the first Filipino priest to be executed by the Spanish colonial government. As I mentioned
Okay.
before,
So not the first Filipino to be executed by the
no, first
Spanish.
Filipino priest, which, yeah.
Hopefully the last.
Uh, there is also, as I said before, there's no known photos of Father Malari, and the names and manner of death for all of the victims are basically unknown today, from what I could find. Um, Many sources said that this was the work of like the church on their side to try and suppress like the scandal of him
Oh.
being a priest and murdering all these people. They didn't really want it to get spread around. And then they also said at the same time that even though the Spanish like government was there and they were like kind of occupying the Philippines, uh and they were known for like their extensive record keeping of basically everything, that they didn't really care, unfortunately, enough about what was happening here to like document any of this in their own records, because it wasn't happening
Yeah,
to
okay.
them.
Huh.
So it's like, so we
Right.
don't really know, like, we
I
don't
mean,
know
the record
anything.
keeping was certainly not the same standards
No.
as today in general.
Mm-mm.
So there's a lot of
Yeah.
factors going on here, I guess is what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say. I
But
mean, yeah, because I was like
yeah.
not that surprised to hear there wasn't that many pictures. I couldn't find many
Yeah.
pictures in my cases, at least 100 years in the future.
Yeah.
Or
Right?
from yours, not our future.
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
Oh,
It's a
I knew what you meant.
pre-crime.
I didn't even think that. A pre-crime?
It's a Minority Report, and they have to the precogs dig up people that are
Oh,
are pre-criminals. It
that'd
all
be
sounds right.
scary.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But
I like it.
I think I've seen it. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's Tom Cruise, so there's that going against it, but it's it's an
I
interesting
do like
concept.
Tom Cruise as an actor. I do go out
Yeah.
of my way not to watch, or try not to watch his movies on anything that will send any money to him, but
Right, right, right,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Uh yeah, but that's all I got. That's everything I could dig up. If
Oh my god.
there
Wow.
there are there are probably at least 12 podcasts, like episodes about him. I didn't get around to listening to any of them. Uh and
Okay.
stuff,
Well,
so
people
maybe
could
they have some
maybe
more information if you want to
yeah.
find out more. Go support a nice Filipino podcast. Yay.
Yeah, because they probably aren't highlighted too much on a lot of true crime ones where we're if we're based in North America. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
information you can find on North American crimes. So
I
it
think I
just
saw like one that
yes.
wasn't like a Filipino based podcast or one that
Right.
deals exclusively with the Philippines. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that can be tough. That's I already ran into an article that was all in the Filipino language, Tagalog. And I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, I learned a word or two when I was working with some Filipinos. But
Yeah.
I could I could not read it, and I wouldn't want to if the YouTube videos were all, not in English, it'd be tough. But
Yeah,
um
I work with a bunch of Filipinos, so I do know some words like uh
what did you learn?
we do, well, they always say like "ata." It'll be like "ata" and then
Oh,
your name. So that's like
oh
I think
really?
it's like sister or auntie. It's like kind of like just a,
Oh,
yeah, like they
okay,
always call it
okay.
everybody like "ata so and so." Like that's what they do.
That one I didn't, but when I was working
Yeah.
as a server at a restaurant when I first moved here to Alberta, the a lot of the cooks were Filipino, and the
Yeah.
banquet server, because it was also a hotel, so like the banquet manager lady, her name was literally Honey. She was such a sweet
Oh,
lady. And I'm not
yeah.
that could be a dad joke, but no pun intended. She's very sweet. But I learned from we had a cook named Bong. I love Bong. His full name was Bonjamer. And so from him I would learn different things. Bonjamer. Like salamat, I guess is thank you, if I remember correctly. And then I'd be like, salamat, when I go to pick up my food, and he'd be like, Wolong anaman. And I'd be like, ah, and that's you're welcome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's about it. Maybe something about pretty person, but I can't remember if it's Napaka Gundamo or something like that. If we have any Filipino listeners that are still listening, let me know. What did I just say? No. Oh. Anyway, I hope they do. I like highlighting a country. It's really cool. It's a neat way to dig into something you haven't heard about a lot of the time.
Right? I enjoy it.
Yeah, that was cool. That one I didn't read anything. You know how you like skim stuff and you're trying to find a case.
It was on like every list I looked at when I was looking
really?
at true crime cases and murders in the Philippines. It's like
I didn't read a lot of list. I read like half of one and was like, those two people are pretty interesting. I better just pick one before I like.
Yeah.
Mine was between the dude I covered. I was gonna say the dude I did. The dude I covered and like some criminal that had a very tragic story and he was like dead by like 16 or 20 or something. I was like, whoa.
Oh gosh.
that would be a short one.
So, yeah. Mine was very short for me. This was 2.5 pages long.
Like, that's funny. And I was
short.
Like, oh my gosh, mine's short. And it was like, by the time I typed up some of my notes, it was yeah, maybe 3 or 4. So then I start like, okay, well, there's side tangents or things you could pad a little bit. Like maybe you add some quotes and stuff that help explain, because there's like a lot going on in mine. But then I think it's like 7 now plus sources. So
oh, okay,
it's Alanna sized. It'll be a snack. This was our little hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah.
The full meal deal.
Yeah, we'll be back for part 2.
We'll be back and maybe listen to this ad for another cool indie podcaster.
Hi, my name is Mallory Jenna Robinson. Join me on A Hateful Homicide, a true crime and investigative journalism podcast dedicated to telling stories and giving the victims a voice regarding the transgender, gender non-binary, non-conforming, two-spirit and intersex communities in the United States and abroad. A Hateful Homicide, launched on Transgender Day of Visibility 2021, is a podcast that not only gives the victims a voice, but also lets you know what happened to them. Please tune in onto A Hateful Homicide by listening on all available podcast platforms. And then also please continue your support and also checking out our website at ahatefulhomicide.net. Thank you.
So I did a story about a guy named, most commonly known as Nardong Putik.
Oh, okay.
I did not look up how to say that, but it can't be pronounced that many ways, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Nardong Putik. And I titled my, I was to say essay, paper, I don't know, what do you want to call it?
Right?
Robin Hood figure or hood rat?
Oh, okay.
I don't know. There were some better titles. So, I definitely stole a few quotes of some things that I liked that were phrased very nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this it does span some time like yours. This is about this guy and his criminal doings. Spoiler alert. Unnecessary
on a
spoiler
true crime episode.
Yeah. I know people put spoiler alert in front of everything now. I once heard a couple podcasters arguing, well, especially because her producer on that one is the boyfriend of one of them, and they're going,
Oh, okay.
You don't have to spoiler alert something that's like 10 years old. Like, yes, you always have to spoiler alert. Like, it was like a whole discussion, which is quite an interesting one, I guess you could get into. But
if something's like, I'd say at least 6 months to a year old, you don't need to say spoiler alert. I do, just because I think it's funny to be like, spoiler alert.
like for a big movie or something, yeah, I still want to warn people if I'm gonna like suddenly give something away that they might enjoy. But yeah, there's definitely a point where it becomes like, if you really wanted to see it that bad, you probably would have seen it already. So don't blame me. Yeah, I'm just the messenger. All right. So as it turns out, this guy was born in March. Whoop whoop. March 25th, 1925. So
100 years after my case.
Yeah, like a fucking 100 years ago. Some things did say 1923, but I think it was 25 that came up quite often. Yeah, quite a fucking long time ago. And his full name was Leonardo Malahand Manicio. And he was born. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to look up where yours was. I wonder if it was anywhere near mine. I'll have to double check this. Where were you? Where was yours? I'm already like, did you say a place name that I remember? No, all I can remember is where the Black Dagger Brotherhood is, which is Caldwell.
My work here is done.
Because that's the pertinent information that my brain would pick up. Because I go, oh, Caldwell. Didn't we know somebody with that last name? That'll stick in here.
Magalong.
Oh, and then you had the Make a Baby place.
Yeah, that's where he's once, where most sources say he was born.
Right. Okay.
Macababy.
Well, that's fitting. Anyway.
Right?
Okay, so yeah, I probably could have double checked it. I'm going to say these right. Hopefully I get the emphasis correct. But born in Sabang das Marinas, Cavite province. Fuck, if I should looked up anything, it probably was Cavite, because it's Cavite or Cavite, and I'm about to say it like a bunch of times. So anyway, we're just going with it. And his parents' names were Juan and Arcadia, which I thought was pretty.
Yeah.
I will say I find that like I'll meet a Filipino who'll have like a completely just like white sounding Western name or something like we had two brothers, and the one brother's name was Norman that I worked with. The other one was Wilson. But then like you had like Bonjamer. So it's like they'll either be like completely like normal sounding to us, or like something that sounds totally like off the wall.
I think it's because most often they do have like a name that they've chosen since coming over here. Like almost every Filipino really? I met, like that the name like at my work, that's not their real name. Like because I'll be friends with them on Facebook, and they have a very Filipino name on Facebook, and then the name we call them at work is like just a very like generic. Yeah. I think it's very common to like I think it's more common with them than like other countries, maybe, for them to just come over and then just have a name that they just use at like work and everything.
See, I always thought of that as being like Chinese people do that. I don't know why. I'd never thought of like I'd just be like, oh, it's kind of like one or the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, Arcadia. This is mom's name. But we'll get to his name because, yeah, his birth name obviously was different. He famously credited his ability to survive and escape his numerous ambushes and gunfights to his anting, which means amulet. So
okay,
good, interesting.
It's a good luck charm,
right? Yeah, sounds like a pretty protective one. His godfather, or I think they said it's called a padrino. Cute, probably because their language has Spanish influence, probably because of the whole occupation thing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. His grandfather was part of a wealthy clan, I guess, of prominent lawyers, landowners, and politicians in the town. And his father, Juan Manicio, was a farmer and politician. Both. He was both.
Okay.
I guess there was a lot of farmers. Presumably you could hold two roles. Why not?
Yeah.
He went from one to the other. But we do know he was, quote, allied with three families, the Karungkong, Mangubat, and the Barzagas. You had to be allied with or paying someone with protection at this time if you wanted to be left alone to farm and live in peace, basically. And at this time, Cavite was mostly grassland and just vulnerable, in particular to, quote, bandits, cattle rustlers, car nappers, and smugglers. End quote.
Jeez.
And far from the more developed, place it is now.
Yeah.
I liked one thing said that it had pockets of lawlessness that led to people seeking protections.
Okay. Sounds like the mafia.
Right? Yeah, it sounds like you can't necessarily trust that the police or whoever's going to be able to help you out necessarily. He ended up dropping out of school due to lack of money when he was pretty young. So he doesn't have the best backstory, we'll say. And it doesn't get any better when in 1944, when little Leonardo was barely 19, the country was under Japanese occupation. So, World War II and all that.
Yeah.
And his father was then murdered, most likely due to his connection with the Barzagas, but also the family's livestock was all stolen. So, just as a fuck you.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. Not a great time or place to be alive. I don't know, I guess. Sounds pretty scary.
Yeah.
This hit had been apparently ordered, we'll say allegedly on all of this stuff that's not been prosecuted, or so ordered and or carried out by political rivals with what was called, quote, an armed guerrilla group under Colonel Emiliano de la Cruz from Barrio Palapan das Marinas, 14th Infantry Unit. So, it sounds almost like it's sanctioned when you hear infantry unit, but then you're like, armed guerrilla group. And I'm like, right, isn't that like little kids with guns and not monkeys?
No.
And yes, according to one definition I found on the interwebs, guerrilla warfare is the extension of politics by means of an armed conflict. Revolution is its goal. Guerrilla fighters are political partisans, armed civilians whose main weapons are their relationships to the communities in and for which they fight.
Okay.
I think with AK-47s, I always see pictures.
Yeah, it is fairly young people typically.
Right, it's not actual military. Usually, it's
no.
I don't know. It's one of those things that maybe I'll never fully understand, like the word militia and all its different kind of meanings over time. So this person who had ordered the hit on his father, this Dela Cruz, had been vying for control over turf in Damariñas with a rival armed guerrilla unit under this other guy, Colonel Stanislao Mangabut Karungkong. My God, that was a mouthful. And in these circumstances, our main character, Nardong Putik, sought revenge for the injustices his family had suffered at the hands of these cattle rustlers. So yeah, not great. He's definitely pissed off that his dad got killed in kind of this clash that really didn't have a whole lot to do with. Yeah, I mean, I think you had to be allied with somebody, so his dad was, but then he gets a job as a policeman for a while. Surprise.
Okay. I was not expecting that. Like, you probably weren't expecting priest.
No. There was more to how he got that one, but I didn't understand it.
Okay, fair enough.
With you. There's going to be some of that in here. I was able to expand on, at first I just read that he was a driver thereafter, but it was a bus driver. I was able to confirm. So that makes sense. And that was when the new mayor dismissed him from his post. So there's just like a lot of, feels like political guys pulling strings and dabbling in all sorts of shit in my case.
Corruption.
Oh yeah, it's just like rampant. It's like people trying to survive in prison or something. Or Survivor, you got to make an alliance.
Yeah.
So somewhere in there, possibly during the time he was working as a policeman and or a bus driver, he turned to crime himself. He became a henchman. Fun. Gotta love a henchman, right? Too. Yeah. Of a notable political dynasty in Cavite. And the articles I read listed his various criminal activities in no specific detail or order as murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, illegal possession of firearms, and growing and dealing marijuana.
Oh no!
I mean, clearly that's the least of them if we were doing them in order.
Yeah. Yeah, my response was only in regards to the last one. In the sarcastic, oh no!
Yeah.
Not murder, kidnapping.
Right. Oh, no. Yeah, maybe they did. That does seem like almost descending order. Murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, firearms, weed. So the underground was said to be completely under his control at this point in time, I guess. And soon the politicians wanted him on their side because he has so much sway that they really want him. All the farmers, I think all the farmers like him at one point because he's providing protection for them now, and he's
okay.
Initially, I don't think he's too much of a dick about it, but
yeah, I was gonna say he's probably a little bit nicer.
You want him to be, but then you're like, don't become the thing that you hate.
Yeah, people tend to do that.
Right. Yeah. Legend has it that they got his name from hiding in mud puddles.
In mud puddles? How big are these puddles?
Right? This is why this is so crazy. But some people believe that because his name apparently means Nardo of the mud. Nardong Putik. Nardo of the mud, I guess. And they said he was known to fully submerge himself in a mud puddle using bamboo or papaya stalks as a makeshift breathing tube or sort of snorkel device.
Oh, so like fully. Okay. I was picturing him like a crocodile, like eyes and like top of his head above the puddle, and he's just like...
That's I like that image.
He's just like waiting.
Because somehow he's in a puddle that you go to put 1 foot into, and then it's like 10 feet deep because he's in there with a snorkel.
Okay. Yeah, this is a Hollywood movie, like...
Oh, yeah. It will be.
This is Pirates of the Caribbean level. We're gonna trap air underneath this rowboat, like canoe, and we're gonna walk at the bottom of the ocean with the air bubble of...
Oh, God. I love it when that shit works.
It's like, and somehow the 2 grown men are gonna be heavy enough that they're gonna be able to walk along the bottom, and that the weight of the oxygen trying to go up isn't stronger than the weight of the 2 men.
Oh no, it was like they had the bubblehead charm from Harry Potter or something. Yeah. It worked perfectly.
So picture him like just... They've done that in so many movies with the little bamboo straw. I love it.
True. I feel like that is a trope you see. Like, yeah, someone's got to go through the Amazon in the jungle or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Puddle of Mud. Well, that's a band, but
yeah.
Doesn't... Yeah, anyway. Don't they sing She Fucking Hates Me? Anyway.
I have no idea.
Oh, I think so. So, Nardo of the Mud. He was, yes, like I said, he snorkels in the mud. So apparently the answer to that is they're very big puddles. And of course he has his magic amulet also. There's no pictures of that.
Can't forget about that.
Yeah. There's only like a couple pictures of him as it is. I can't really see it in any of them, but you can look at I got a couple pictures of him and the eventual movie, as I just alluded to.
Oh, yeah.
They also said that his father had been maybe called Nardong Putik. So he had the mud nickname too. And there was apparently another theory as to why Nardong had adopted the nickname. Like some said it was because he lived in this really muddy area. Apparently really muddy area. Deep mud puddles. Or that he had darker mud, quote unquote, toned skin. So
okay.
I think as white people, the only thing we'll ever understand is like we make fun of paler white people sometimes, but we'll never really understand like what it's like to be like a lighter versus darker skinned black person or something like that. Like they're brown. They're all brown Filipinos, are they not? Come on.
Yeah.
So like who cares? Why would he be called Mud unless he did this crazy stuff?
I do know a lot of Asian countries are some of the worst, along with North America, in terms of racism and prejudice against like different people. Like Chinese and Japanese people fucking hate each other. Like,
right. Yeah, they don't
all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like there's a lot going on in Asia.
There's a lot of things ingrained in us that are not great. That's true. And one more note on that was that the foreign press would later refer to him as Muddy Leonard.
Muddy Leonard?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, yeah, we'll just call him Nardong. He also tattooed a copy of the magical medallion, I guess his amulet, on him. Maybe it was a different magical medallion. I don't know. Because he also had Masonic protection charms tattooed on him. It was very like supernatural with the non-demon possessing tattoos.
Yeah.
So that they can't get inhabited.
Huh.
And most famously, I guess, probably, he had the word Kilobot on his torso. Which I almost didn't... I know, and I almost didn't look it up, but it came up in one of the articles, and I was like, is this a word? And yes, apparently it means like terror or horror, and not just like killer bot or something.
Yeah,
which is kind of what I assumed.
I felt like I had heard that before somewhere.
Well, it's like spelled like, like Kilobot? So maybe that's how it's pronounced. You know, kind of like, what is it? Gila monster? Spelled like that with one L. I don't know. Terror or horror. So he definitely was trying to say some shit, regardless.
Yeah. Some interesting tattoos.
Yes. Yes, indeed. But whatever the case, it did seem to keep him from being seriously injured or shot while running from the law, as he would so often do. He would only be grazed or, you know, things like that. He didn't really seem to get any serious injuries.
Yeah.
But pretty sure he's probably not obeying the quote-unquote rules of the amulet that might exist, like the special prayer you have to say that goes with it. And you're also you're supposed to abstain from sex and liquor while you're wearing it for it to work.
Oh, while you're wearing it. Okay. I was like, what?
Yeah. And so, like, I don't see how that worked for him, because he was apparently not only married to a Feliciana Nolasco, but one thing said that he had many common law wives. So yeah, there's that. We do like, so yeah, when he's getting busy when he's not being a criminal, and had time to have one son named Leonardo Jr. and two daughters, Angelita and Estrelita. Those are very pretty names.
Yeah, they're all nice names.
Because one sounds like, maybe it's Angelita. Sounds like angel, and like Estrelita, like maybe that has something to do with like star. I don't know. Very pretty. It's just my speculation. Because étoile is star in French. I don't know. Could be. Okay, so now in 1947, he's first convicted. The only charge that stuck on him at this time was firearms possession. So, of his rap sheet.
Yeah.
He only got
him 6 for something.
months. Yeah. They managed to get him for that right now. And then he did his 6 months for that, and then he got out and returned home, and then felt heat from one of those families, one of those big crime old families, Karung Kong. There's a lot of letters. And then he went to work on a fishing boat in Manila Bay for about 2 years to kind of lay low, so he didn't get in trouble for a while. Then he came back to Cavite, and pretty soon is tried for robbery, and he got 18 months. And then he escaped to 1952, possibly just before some November elections. But there's also elections that come up down the line, so I honestly could be confusing it. It's a little confusing. He does have some cyclical behavior. He's like, go to jail, get out, go back to jail, escape.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was not so fun. This was the year 1952. He kind of traversed into infamy when he perpetrated what they called the Maragondon Massacre. Didn't try to say that out loud before. Yeah. And this was when the town's mayor, police chief, and policemen were all brutally stabbed to death with hunting knives.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like, they weren't kidding. It was literally a massacre from this, like, small town, like, their whole police force.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And this bloodbath was supposedly orchestrated by a political figure, was all one article said, who hired Putik to take out his rivals, or whatever the case was, I assume. And who was that political figure? Likely a Senator Justiniano Montano Sr. Sorry. How can you, with a name like that, not just be like dueling somewhere, fencing? Like, why are you gonna be killing people in order and hits? Such a cool name. But for this, Nardong would end up taking the fall, and the senator just got off scot-free for his involvement, if there was any, allegedly.
Allegedly.
He's probably dead. Like, I don't know. But so he was caught and convicted, and I'm really not sure if at that point it was a dry season, there were no mud puddles that he could have hidden in, maybe, because he was back in jail. And let's see, that was around 1952. It's confusing. But he then escaped in 1955. 2 years after that, still on the lam, he commits the Election Day Killings in 1957, as they would become known.
Jeez.
Yeah. So that was the other one on Election Day or whatever. It was confusing me. But he killed a Lieutenant Colonel Laureano Marana, who was the provincial commander of Cavite, so very high-ranking officer. And that was pretty shitty, but still he was not reapprehended right after this murder. He was again on the run for another year until late in May of 1948, when they got a tip that he had plans to come to a small town to see one of his common-law wives. Well, conjugal visit. They heard he was going to be staying at a rice mill in Kuwait. Not Kuwait, which is what I wanted to write, but and I guess this time they supposedly got him. He supposedly surrendered after a 45-minute shootout with police. Yeah. So they're like, yay, we have him. And because he had killed the lieutenant, he was given a sentence of 182 years.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
I mean, this is also after that massacre too, so
yeah.
But then he went to jail for that. Then he escaped. But it was to be served out at Bilibid prison. But there, he was actually still quite privileged, and President Ferdinand Marcos granted him "quote unquote" freedom of movement while incarcerated, in order to assist Marcos against his enemies on the ground.
What? What does that even mean?
The only other thing I saw was that he was allowed out on the prison grounds under certain circumstances. It's like, yeah, okay. I think he's probably allowed a little bit of movement so he can do this guy's dirty work. I don't know, but then that's the president, so what the fuck? Jeez. What the fuck, Philippines? Didn't you guys have a dictator too? Like, what is going on? Anyway, we have our own problems. We won't. We'll try not to judge. Yeah. So, he escapes again. We shouldn't be surprised. In 1969.
No. He seems to be very good at it.
I mean, but after you've heard that he was given freedom of movement to... Yeah, help whoever, whatever. He's just a political pawn, maybe now. I don't know. They're like, oh yeah, conveniently, we happened to look the other way this day. Yeah. So he could go kill my enemy over there.
Yeah.
A 20,000, I'm assuming pesos, bounty is set on his head because it said a P 20,000, whatever. I think it's still a lot, though. It's not a small amount of change.
No.
Set on his head after that, but by the acting governor of Cavite, Juanito Johnny Remula. And while Nardong was once again a fugitive on the loose, he managed to kill 2 National Bureau of Investigation agents who were tailing him.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Yeah. So they're like the NBI. I guess it'd be like the FBI. Like over.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah. It's really, really intense because they're like, fuck, we gotta get this guy. So that plus his priors, it triggered the formation of an NBI constabulary force whose goal was to get Putik dead or alive.
Wow.
Yeah, they're kind of fed up, which is like, but someone probably helped him escape. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's very like, what? Okay, now they're mad. But yeah, it was basically implied that they didn't much care whether it was dead or alive. I think probably the public maybe wanted dead or in jail at least so they could just not be afraid anymore of what the fuck was going to happen next. Yeah, and I had read, I think I mentioned, like, he had provided some protection and, people didn't get their cattle stolen as much when he was ruling the crime scene, but it was at one point, like, enough was just enough.
Yeah, he seems to be wild.
Right? Like, yeah, he'll do whatever they ask of him. Or whatever he can. Whatever he has to, I think he thinks. So 2 years after he escaped this third time, now they're having some better luck and seem to be closing in on Nardong. They had found his supposed hidey hole, like where he'd been holing out. And then there was a regular police checkpoint in that same town they had the shootout in, I guess. Kawit? I don't know. Maybe he likes that town. Or maybe one of those sources I was getting confused. I'm not sure, but I do know that as his red Chevy Impala pulled up to the checkpoint, they were ready, guns drawn, and they see him, and they're pissed off and determined, but he just pulled up to them and just kept right on driving.
Oh, wow, so they didn't even shoot at him?
Yeah, they see that he's not going to stop. They recognize that it's him, and he's speeding away now, so they give chase, and they open fire, because they're over it. Okay. Yeah, there's like apparently 20 officers scrambling to follow him. And then I guess he loses control of the vehicle and it careens off the road. And once all the gun smoke clears, his body was just revealed absolutely riddled with bullet holes, to the point of being like unrecognizable, it said.
Wow. Yeah, 20 officers probably shooting at you.
Yeah. Didn't include that picture for you, but it did pop up in my research. I was like, oh,
Aren't
there it is.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah, you're like not even looking for it, and then it's just like in the article. Yeah. So, however, there's a conspiracy theory about his death. Fun. I like it. So, people thought it was a little weird because he had been going around with a lot of bodyguards at that time because he was so famous and infamous and being looked for, that they thought it was kind of weird that he would have been driving his car alone. And there's a theory that he was in a resort. I'm not sure if he was just like having lunch or something. And then they think that he may have been poisoned, placed into the car, and then that the police shot his unconscious body and made it look like a shootout.
Okay, so it's not a conspiracy that he's still alive somehow. It's that...
Right. Okay. It's the manner.
I was
of
like,
death.
I was like, what?
I know. I just love that it's anything conspiracy. But they were like, no, he wouldn't have been driving in broad daylight alone without his bodyguards. Can see that. And also, from what I understand, it was a known police checkpoint, so not like a special one that they set up because they were looking for him. So I was like,
yeah, that could be a little strange.
It's an interesting theory. And yeah, there's conspiracy. There's also still controversy from what you read, that that he's kind of painted in a little bit of maybe a romantic light sometimes as more of a anti-hero. What?
A Lothario. They call them.
Oh yeah, like isn't that all like a romantic like, guy? Or, yeah.
Yeah, all these like wives.
So many wives. I know what that. I remember going back to be like, wait, what? Did that say he was married? Like on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Like, huh? Well, more digging here. But yeah, there's a picture on the drive about there was a movie poster or whatever from IMDb of the movie made about him.
Yeah, I was looking at that one when you were talking about that tattoos, because it shows like the 3 tattoos, but it kind of looks like a skull, like on his chest, I guess, because there's like 2 up top, and then there's like the one lower kind of going across his stomach, so it kind of looks like a face.
Oh, nice! I could not even make that out when I looked at the small, thumbnail or whatever.
That's funny. I don't know. It's just kind of distracting. Looks like it has eyes, a nose, and then like a straight line mouth going across.
Oh my god! Like when people
so scary
draw faces in their stomach and then like make them dance and talk. Oh my god!
It's like, I am so scary. Like,
I just titled it to movie because I'm like, there's never any hiding if there's a movie about it, because Kelsey will see the picture of whatever actor and be like, oh, there's a movie.
I wouldn't have got that was a movie poster.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's like
black and until white. I start reading Ramon Revilla as Monday. Yeah. If I'd read that, I would have got it. But, yeah,
true. That's right. It was starring Ramon Revilla, and apparently, decades after, it said that Ramon would go on to become a powerful political figure in the province of Cavite. So that's just kind of a life imitating art or something. Well, yeah, not exactly, but and I haven't checked out either the song, apparently available on Spotify or wherever you get your songs, called Nardong Putik by someone named Benino.
No idea.
There's a car horn going off in my neighborhood. I don't know if you can hear it.
Oh, I could hear something. I didn't know what it was.
A car alarm, I mean. Yeah, car alarm. Yeah, one thing said his legacy, like he's an anti-hero, and that there was no, I guess, Filipino anti-hero more revered or reviled, as they put it.
Huh.
And another quote said that the convicted criminal and fugitive's reputation was enough to erase the respect he earned from the locals of Cavite. In his last years, he became known for targeting the rich and endearing himself to the townsfolk of the province. His death was met with both relief and grief.
I could see that, yeah.
All right. They didn't know how to feel. Or I'm sure they would probably. I would be relieved.
Yeah, I would be too.
I mean, craziness. That's his story. And the only other thing I had that I added, because I was adding stuff as I said, was there was an article, a website that had an article about the lieutenant that was killed, Lieutenant Colonel Lorino Marana.
Okay.
And the article, and there wasn't a lot to find on this case, so it was interesting that this one, like, this was like a blog post or something, but the person was like, this is dedicated to my grandfather, so it was like the grandson of this lieutenant colonel guy. And it, I don't have to read it all, but it just kind of went over what he was known for and what made him kind of cool, which was basically putting down this like rebellion called the Hook Balahap Rebellion. Probably said that wrong.
Okay.
But I don't know. A little. I read over it because it was kind of interesting. Because it was like this, according to Britannica, a communist-led peasant uprising in central Luzon, Philippines. So that was like going on in the 40s to the 1950s. The name of it was the Tagalog acronym for, oh, more words, Hukbo Ing Bayan Laba sa Hapon, which means People's Anti-Japanese Army, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it kind of made sense to me. I was like, okay, because they said that it was Japan occupied at the time, because, you know, it was World War II, and they were sided with the Germans, and blah, blah, blah. And then he, like, the Lieutenant Colonel Maranya, because it's got that little accent thing. He, according to Wikipedia, was the former head of something they called Force X, which was to fight these Hukbalahap guys. But like, it sounded really neat. It was said that they employed psychological warfare through combat intelligence and infiltration that relied on secrecy and planning, training, and execution of attack. And like, I was like, damn, like they have to really learn this guerrilla warfare, and they're like having to fight all different sorts of people in the Philippines at this time. Like, not only is there a world war going on, but then there's like all these other little conflicts and stuff. I just thought it was really cool. I mean, I guess I'll probably just say like people can maybe read a little bit more on it, because it doesn't really have to do with Nardong, but it has a cool name, Force X.
Yeah.
So like I put in a quote, like quotes about things they did, because I was like, damn, that's pretty interesting. But I'm a bit of a history nerd, so I don't know. It maybe we'll leave that one as it's interesting, and if you guys want to hear more of it, maybe we'll just put it over on Patreon. Because there's an army colonel called Napoleon Valeriano, so fucking that's a cool name.
Yeah. Not Bonaparte.
Not Bonaparte.
4'8" or whatever.
Bonaparte either. Oh my god, that was stupid. I'm sorry. I'll see myself out. No, it is cool though. Yeah. So yeah, we sometimes put a little extras over on Patreon, or I like it when different podcasts will be like, I can't tell that story here. There's too many people. Let me tell it over on our private, our more private Patreon. I'm like, fuck yes, give me the gossip, because I want it. Like, I will go over there to. I think I had to join when she was like, yeah, I had this neighbor that like faked his own death, and I'm like, well, I have to hear this story. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Any of our stories like that are gonna be solely for our Patreon pals, so
definitely
you guys will have to get over there. But also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. We really like to see all the followers and different plays we're getting, and it's been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And next week we are diving into some urban legends again.
Oh yeah, we are. We just talked about that. We're like, oh yeah, we get to do that next week.
Yeah,
because we gotta always pick a theme, and then it's fun picking the topics to fit the theme.
Yeah, so we'll see what we come up with. So.
Yes, it's not particular to, you know, a country this time, so that's all we'll say. Should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm excited. I like looking up the origins of urban legends and stuff like that.
Yes. Ooh, Urban Legends Origins. Was that a prequel? Anyway, if not, that's what we should call the episode.
Sure.
I love it. All right.
Thanks for listening. Catch you guys next week.
Keep it cryptic, y'all.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.